Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. I am officially a dozen days into my 13 days of Halloween, which is just insane to me. So I have, of course, locked myself into the Asylum for 13 straight days, and I am talking only horror reviews from the infamous production company, The Asylum. And today, day 12, we are going back to 2006, so back to that torture era that I talked about a couple days ago with Hillside Cannibals, and we are going to be talking about Halloween Night. So this is technically listed as a mockbuster for Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween, of course, but that one did come out the next year this one came out in October of 2006. Rob Zombie's Halloween came out in, I believe it was August of 2007. So, I mean, of course, I'm sure there were trailers and things like that, but just trying to capitalize on that name. So this one is a really interesting one, frankly, and so I'm really excited to talk about it. If you guys have enjoyed these 13 days, please give this video a like down below. That really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any time at all. Let's dive right into day 12, my second to last day, where I get to talk about Halloween Night from 2006. So this one, Halloween Night, was directed by Mark Atkins, who I've seen a couple other Asylum films from him. He is from way back when, because he was actually the second unit director of photography from yesterday's movie back in 2002, Death Valley. And so he has been with Asylum for a very long time. But the other one that I've seen from him that I've really enjoyed was actually the RoboCop remake mockbuster called Android Cop. That one was surprisingly good. And so I didn't know if this one would be as good or not. Of course, Android Cop came out much later than Halloween Night, but we'll see how this one was. So with Halloween Night, of course, this is a slasher film. We open up with essentially our origin story. Our main antagonist here ends up witnessing his mother being murdered. It sounds like his dad was kind of in on it, but he ends up surviving, but he's burned alive. And so he is just suffering from like crazy burns all over his body. He's completely disfigured. His mother has been murdered, and then we find out that his father has committed suicide. At least that's the story. And so he gets sent to this asylum of some sort. And so we pick up about 10 years later. So that would place him probably around 19 or 20, maybe 21, 22, somewhere around there. So that's where we pick up with him. And then we go in and meet our main set of characters, which this time around they are 20-somethings. They are about to graduate from college. They are setting up for this party that they do, I guess, every year. Our main guy, I'll call him, he sets up some kind of prank every year, but he's said that there's nothing going on this year. But of course, as we watch, we realize that that's not the case. He has this real whole long elaborate scheme set up that involves holding somebody at gunpoint, a fake police officer. Like, it is nuts, and it's not funny at all. It's not a good prank in the least. It could result in somebody legitimately dying, but I don't know. Apparently this guy thinks it's fun. He calls it his psychological horror year. That's the type of prank that he's going for. So it's ridiculous and it's a terrible prank, but that's what we're watching here. And so we are following this Halloween party that takes place. And then of course our character is going to come back because obviously the Halloween party is taking place in what happens to be our main antagonist's old home. And so we will see what happens from there. Of course, the kids are going to be picked off one by one. So it is a very basic slasher setup, but I mean, it does exactly what it needs to do. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I thought the Halloween premise was pretty interesting. It is super elaborate, but I could totally see some of my friends doing that back in college. Like, there's not much else to do. Why not go for it? And so it's a super elaborate party, but it's a lot of fun. I like the costuming on this because it's like a medieval theme and they really go for it. They have a troll at they call it the bridge, but it's like the stairs leading up to the house, who asks a riddle in order for the late arrivals to get in. Like, it's just a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed the party aspect of this. So I liked kind of the setup for this slasher film. I think it worked well. Before I get too far away from the opening of this, I do want to mention that the brutality and the violence kicks off right from the get-go. We open up with an assault. It is a brutal, ugly assault, but that's kind of what kicks off the entire film. And right from there, you're getting blood and just violence, I guess, is the best way to describe it. There is one shot which you could tell was like CGI, but other than that, I think, they stick to practical effects for the most part. And so the rest of the film, I didn't notice a ton of CGI at all. And as I've said in the past, early Asylum does practical effects exceptionally well. And this film is no different. I think the effects on this are really good, just as good as Hillside Cannibals, but there's more of it. Like, there is so much violence and gore and blood in this film, which makes it a ton of fun to watch if you're into that type of thing. Something else at the start of this film that it just really placed it in its time, which is not a good thing, frankly, but just the use of homophobic slurs is prevalent at the beginning of this movie. It tapers off as the film goes on, but boy, it's like immediately you can tell, yes, this is from back when, because you wouldn't see that nowadays, and you shouldn't have seen it then, of course, but you do have it. It just reminded me of being back in high school, which of course I always mention I graduated in 04. This came out in 06, so I was around the same age of these characters because I would have graduated college in 08. So they were probably about 2 years older than me at the time when this would have released, and so it just felt very much like that time because of those opening slurs that kind of set things up. And it's like, man, we don't need that. We never needed that ever, but it's there, and so it places it in its time for better or worse. Speaking of placing it in its time, it feels very mid-2000s, like edgy and angsty. Again, for better or worse. It's kind of silly now looking back on it, but back then it was just cool. It was just the way it was, right? Like one of the characters shows up, he's wearing his leather jacket, he's got his real dark shades on, he's smoking a cigarette, he's just a cool guy, he's a band member, he just thinks he's really cool. And just the way that our main character talks, it's just so very mid-2000s, which looking back now just seems so silly, just fake, and again, just edgy for no reason at all. And so it is very much, I can't stress enough how this very much feels like a film from the mid-2000s. Some of the characters in this were just despicable. Like, I did not like them at all. And it made for, like, when those kills were to happen, it just made those even more fun because I was kind of rooting along for the antagonist at points because I hated some of these characters. They were just bad people that I didn't need to see continue in this film. And so watching some of those kills was a lot of fun. But if you're the type of person who needs to like their main characters, then this might turn you off a little bit. That said, I'm not sure that it was intentional to make these characters so dislikable like they were. But either way, I thought it worked because I enjoyed seeing them get picked off even more as the film progressed. The script on this one is a little bit up and down as well because toward the beginning, when we're trying to go through some of that exposition, it's just very clumsy. The way they talk about how they have always had these parties, there's not going to be a prank this year. They think there's not going to be a prank this year, but oh boy, we're really going to get them good. Like, it's just clumsy how it's handled, and that kind of shows its head a little bit as the story progresses. It's not terrible, but it is noticeable. And then on the acting side of things, I think our main core, there's about 6 to 8 main characters in this that are like the group of friends that are setting up the party. I think they're really strong. They even go for like mumblecore a little bit, which was really interesting because they wanted to make it feel realistic, and so they're talking over each other. You can tell they're improvising to try to make it feel more realistic than it is, of course. But that works most of the time. But some of that oh my gosh, I can never say this in the moment. Improvisation, there it is. Some of this improvisation does feel a little bit silly, but I think it works for the most part. It gives the film an interesting feel, if nothing else. Outside of our main cast of characters, though, our supporting cast is where it gets a little bit iffy. Our main, fake cop in this, he's not a main character, he's a supporting cast, but I think he does a good job. And then we get the real cop that shows up. He feels sleazier and more fake than our fake cop. And so I thought that was they should have reversed the casting on that because I thought that was just terrible. But it's fine. It doesn't really kill the movie by any stretch of the imagination. The real cop plays a very small role, so it's not a big deal, but it is what it is. The main cast I thought was really strong. The supporting cast, on the other hand, was very iffy. This is a typical slasher film. It's going to be exactly what you expect it to be. There are a ton of kills in this movie, which is why I love that party setting, because you get so much fodder for our main bad guy to take out. So that's a ton of fun. The weapons on this are pretty unique because they are weapons that one of the characters has brought to the party because of this medieval theme. And so they're just like these crazy swords and things like that. Like, they're a lot of fun to watch our main bad guy use. And so that was always cool. On top of that, if this matters to you, there was so much TNA in this movie. It was nuts. So if you like gore, if you like crazy amount of just blood and killings in your slasher films, and you like TNA, like, this is a movie that's worth watching. I had a ton of fun with this, and I didn't expect to. So it's not perfect, like I have been saying through all of these, even if I have enjoyed them. Like, there is definitely flaws here. It is not going to be for everybody. If you look at the reviews, it has very low ratings on IMDb. When it was released, it was pretty much just panned across the board. Like, people are not going to love this movie, but I do enjoy it because it is a relic from that past that is so, special to me, being the era where I was, in college at that point. But it's just a fun era. I definitely could have done without the homophobic slurs at the beginning of this, but that, like I said, tapers off as the film goes on, fortunately. It's just not needed. And so other than that, I really enjoyed this one. This is another one that I was able to find on Tubi for free. Yes, there's ads, but Tubi has been awesome during these 13 days. I've watched so many from it. So if you're interested in checking it out, it's not a terrible way to waste 90 minutes or whatever it is. You could definitely do worse when it comes to independent slasher films. So I enjoyed this one. I was thoroughly surprised. So Mark Atkins has done it with Android Cop and Halloween Night. I have to check out some more from him. So, one more thing before I give my star rating. This ending I thought was really good. Unlike endings in the past where it felt so abrupt and just like kind of tossed in, this one felt very well done, and it really sets up for the possibility of a sequel, which I thought would be awesome to see. Unfortunately, now we're 15 years out, so I'm sure that's not going to happen. But Asylum, if you're watching, go back to this film. Let Mark Atkins direct Halloween Night 2, because I think there's so many cool things you could do with this. But anyway, with that said, I'm going to give Halloween Night from 2006 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you can believe it, we only have 1 day left in the Asylum, and I'm so glad that day 12 was a success. So I've had some ups, I've had some downs. What will this end on? Well, we'll have to wait to see until tomorrow. If you guys have seen this movie, though, please let me know down in the comments below. Is this one that you liked as much as I have, or am I just completely off the mark here? Let me know your thoughts down in those comments below. And again, if you want to watch it, check it out on Tubi, and then let me know what you thought about it after you've watched it. As always, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, manga. If it's media related, I'm interested in it, and if you are too, you might consider subscribing. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.